Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
They said it couldn't be done, but Donovan Mitchell is staying in Cleveland and he is getting paid. Can the Cavs build a title contender with him? Also, what does the Celtics sale mean for a potential dynasty? And Aaron Judge is putting together the best season of his career.
I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
The Cleveland Cavaliers have a new head coach, and they have now secured their superstar player, Donovan Mitchell, extending in Cleveland, which, if you had asked most people in the NBA media, national media, the plugged-in insiders 6 months ago, they would have said absolutely no way this was going to happen. A 3-year, $150 million max contract. Danny Cunningham from Locked On Cavs joins me now. And Danny, this is one of those where you can truthfully and honestly, without having any hyperbole, you are able to say, no one thought this would happen, and yet here we are. Why?
So I do think it was a little overblown from a lot of the national insiders, if you will. Donovan's level of happiness in Cleveland as someone who's been in the locker room for a good portion of the last couple of seasons. You know, Donovan has been very happy as a member of the Cavaliers. He's obviously played the best basketball of his career, and he's being rewarded very handsomely financially in a way that he deserves. So I think that he has bought into what the Cavaliers are in belief that they can build over the next several years. And today was a huge day for them as an organization as they received the commitment really from someone who I believe has been a top 15 player in basketball. He is committed to spend the prime of his career in Cleveland because he believes in what this organization has done since he's been there, and he believes in what this organization is capable of doing over the next couple of years.
When the Cavaliers hired Kenny Atkinson, we had you on the show and we talked about what the new coach would mean for the Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell backcourt, that pairing. Now you have Donovan Mitchell getting paid. We know that contract envy can be a thing at times, but what do you think is now the most likely scenario for the Cavaliers moving forward, trying to make this team better, whether you think that involves Darius Garland or not?
So I think the most likely outcome is that Darius Garland is on the roster with Donovan Mitchell. I don't think that you have to worry about contract envy with that situation that you brought up, just because Darius Garland, he's been paid. He signed his rookie max extension where he, I believe, has 4 years left on his contract. So it's not as if this is the Cavs had to pick one or the other to pay. I believe that it can work with those two guys. I think Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell can both be successful in the same backcourt in Cleveland. And I don't think you have to look any further than Donovan Mitchell's first year with the Cavaliers, where both he and Darius Garland played at an all-star caliber level. Of course, Donovan was named an all-star. Darius was not because the volume numbers just weren't quite there, but he was still a really good basketball player. I think the most likely outcome with those two is that Darius bounces back this year and has an excellent year on the Cavs under Kenny Atkinson and alongside Donovan Mitchell.
And we can't forget the extenuating circumstances with Garland last year, the jaw injury, being unable to eat solid foods for a while. Like, you're a pro athlete, like that is going to affect you, not wanting to get hit in the face. Those are all things that can contribute to your game in small ways sometimes even. So if they want to take that step and be in the conversation with Boston, with Philadelphia, we'll see what happens with Milwaukee. What kind of a move do they even have available to them at this point, given now that, as you mentioned, Darius Garland is on that max contract, that rookie max, and then now Donovan Mitchell gets this max extension?
Well, I think the thing that makes the most sense is to split up the twin towers that the Cavs have. According to sources, the Cavs are working on a contract extension for Evan Mobley. So that is something that's not done as we record this, but it is something that is being negotiated, which is very important to note. I think moving on from Jarrett Allen could be the play for the Cavaliers, not because Jarrett Allen's not good, but because Jarrett Allen has quite a bit of value, I think, at the trade market. I think that there are a lot of teams that would welcome Jarrett Allen into their program with open arms, but they would also be willing to pay pretty handsomely in terms of other assets to acquire him. And I think that could be something the Cavs exchange Jarrett Allen for a starting caliber wing, or they could get things in a Jarrett Allen trade that they could then reverse course and trade to another organization for a starting caliber wing. So those are the things that I think make the most sense, because right now they've got a lot of talent. They have an excellent backcourt, they have an excellent front court, but they don't have enough on the wing. So I think that they need to repurpose some of that front court talent into a better wing player than what they have. And I think it's also important to note with Darius and not wanting to trade him, his value on the trade market just isn't very high right now. If you saw what the Pelicans had to give up for DeJounte Murray, it wasn't very much. I don't think the Cavs would accept that type of return for Darius Garland, so I think that makes it even less likely that he gets moved. If one of the core four is going to be traded, my money would be on Jarrett Allen.
Stay up to date all year on the Cleveland Cavaliers by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Cavs on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Thanks for making Locked On Sports Today your first listen. Coming up, the Celtics won the title and are now up for sale? Why exactly is that happening? Before we get to that, a former UConn great is retiring from the NBA. I love sports. I love them so much. I never want them to stop. But with the NBA and NHL playoffs over, we have fewer games. And the sports just aren't sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right, something for everyone, every day, all summer long. The John Deere Classic is this weekend, and Scotty Scheffler will not be there, so anyone can win the tournament. FanDuel agrees no golfer has odds better than 14-1 to win, and those 14-1 odds belong to Sungjae Im. Jordan Spieth at 20-1, Jason Day at 33-1. Just to give you a couple notables here, head over to FanDuel.com/lockedon and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. If you're catching this episode after hearing your favorite Locked On show, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. He made some of the most iconic shots in recent college basketball history. Four-time NBA All-Star and a member of UConn's national championship team, Kemba Walker, announced he is retiring from basketball on Tuesday. He began his NBA career as the 9th overall pick by the then Charlotte Bobcats in the 2011 NBA draft after leading UConn to a national championship. Injuries ultimately derailed a promising career, but he ends his NBA career as the Hornets' all-time leader in points, three-pointers, win shares, and minutes played. The Indiana Pacers are taking a big swing with the former number 2 overall pick. James Wiseman is headed to the Pacers. He's coming off a season in which he played a career-high 63 games for the Detroit Pistons, averaging 7 points and 5 rebounds in 17 minutes a game. Remember, he was drafted by the Golden State Warriors with the number 2 pick in the 2020 draft. That was the famous 2-track plan. He's expected to compete for minutes behind Miles Turner in the Pacers' front court. Utah State football coach Blake Anderson is out as the head man for the Utes. The decision comes after an external review of allegations that he hadn't complied with Title IX policies regarding the reporting of sexual misconduct cases. Utah State noted that Title IX policies require full and timely reporting of disclosures of sexual misconduct, including domestic violence, and prohibit employees from investigating disclosures of sexual misconduct themselves. Nate Dreiling, who had been Utah State's defensive coordinator and defensive ends coach, will be Utah State's interim coach during the upcoming season. The roller coaster Reds took a trip to the Bronx to face a Yankees team looking to get back sole possession of first place in the AL East.
Ellie De La Cruz 1, Aaron Judge 0. What's up? This is Jeff Carr from the Locked On Reds podcast. And Ellie De La Cruz with a triple, a homer, and the Reds got the dub. The Reds were huge underdogs on Tuesday night to start the series against the Yankees. And sure, the Yankees have had a much better season than the Reds to this point, but both teams finished the month of June 14-13. And the Reds go off, score 4 runs in 1 inning, a homer by Will Benson, a homer by Ellie De La Cruz, both of them of the 2-run variety. And Graham Ashcraft, while he wasn't good, he wasn't bad either. And the Reds were able to hold it down. Bullpen does its job. Sam Maul did give up the homer to Aaron Judge, but at the end of the day, Aaron Judge is going to get his. Just make sure nobody else gets theirs, and that is how you beat the New York Yankees.
And the Chicago Cubs were favorites on Tuesday night to beat the team with the best record in Major League Baseball, the Philadelphia Phillies.
Oh, my goodness. Trey Turner, awesome. Phenomenal. Michael Mercado, awesome. Phenomenal. To get 5 innings of work out of him was exceeding my expectations. And I thought if they're lucky, they'll get 4 innings out of him. Oh, they got 5. And they got 5 innings of 1-run baseball tonight from Michael Mercado. Nick Castellanos been a nifty couple of catches there in right field, mostly because he's not that fast. But the first one he made on Cody Bellinger earlier in the ballgame, that was a great catch. Johan Rojas slams into a wall. I guess he thought that there was padding there. That was weird. And Jose Ruiz. So maybe we don't have him pitch that much anymore. You know what I'm saying? Okay, it was not great. It was not good. It was literally the worst part of the evening by far. 16 straight guys surrendered. He can't record a single out. And then he got 19. Then so he was the only guy that couldn't get anybody out. It was 16 straight, and then a little bit of a lull when he pitched, and then Jeff Hoffman came in to slam the door closed.
The Boston Celtics are coming off an NBA title. They just gave Derek White and Jason Tatum monster bags, and they are the team everyone in the NBA is chasing. And they're selling the team. Nebulous reports, they announced, we are trying to do this. John Corrales from Locked On Celtics joins me now. And John, we have seen this team skyrocket in value since 2002 when Whit Grossbeck and the ownership group purchased the Celtics. Why now?
So I think the wording tells you the whole story, where it says the controlling family of the ownership group has decided to sell the team for estate and family planning considerations. The controlling family of the ownership group is the Grossbecks. Wick Grossbeck is the face of that, but his father, Irv, is 90 years old and is also part of that. And I think that somehow that all plays into the estate and family planning considerations part of this. Somehow, or maybe it's somebody else, but that is the reason. And
is that just code for we want the money?
It could be like time to cash in on an asset and let's start working out inheritances and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
That could be a very simple way to put it. But to me, when it says controlling family, that's just the majority stake, and it doesn't preclude the rest of the ownership group from being involved in the purchase of the team. And I think it's in that next part of the statement where they already know they expect to sell a majority interest in 2024 or early 25, very specific. They already know that the balance will be closing in 2028. How do they know that? And they know that Wick is going to stay on as governor of the team until 2028. I don't know any outside owner that would come in and be like, yeah, cool, you continue to be governor of this team for 4 years. Just tells me they have a plan in place. And I think that plan in place is a 4-year plan to kind of finance the sale of the team to existing owners, probably led by Steve Pagliuca, who's already the other face of the ownership group.
Yeah.
And it gives them 4 years to cash in on other playoff runs, to cash in on a TV deal, and to take in, probably within those 4 years, 2 expansion fees that will be distributed amongst all the owners. I think that will be part of the calculus as to Wick and his father cashing out. And that kind of eases the burden on the new owners to come up with whatever the majority stake is of a franchise valued up somewhere between $4 and $5 billion.
Well, I wondered aloud on this show, John, that the reason you would have a sense of urgency about it is the looming franchises in potentially Seattle, potentially Las Vegas, whatever happens with the expansion is all of a sudden maybe do all the valuations come down a little if the supply goes up a little? Not that they're going to like ever go down, but just that they would not expand the same sort of way that if you do it now, the Celtics are worth more than if you did it in 3 years relative to the rest of the league. Now we're getting like really convoluted market, like all that kind of stuff. But
yeah. But I think that only applies to like the Charlotte Hornets of the world. You know what I mean? I think the Boston Celtics, the Chicago Bulls, the New York Knicks, the LA Lakers, the legacy franchises would be immune to that. Their value isn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
So Bottom line for me is I do not expect some casino magnate or Jeff Bezos or some group of, the world's richest of the richest to come in and swoop in to buy the Celtics. But look, whenever something's for sale and somebody has a plan already in place, there's nothing that precludes one of those super rich people to come in and be like, hey, I know you probably have something already in mind, but let me see if I can wow you with something. So even though I don't think that's going to be the case, I think they have a plan over the next 4 years to kind of streamline and smoothly transition to people who are already part of the ownership group. You don't ever know who might come in and be like, yeah, I know 4 or 5 billion, but I got 7 that says you're going to change your
Isn't this exactly why you make it public, John? Like if this is already going to be a transition of power within billionaire owners that are already involved or the very rich people already involved, you could just do it and not tell anybody. The reason you would tell everybody is like, hey, I know we said we're going to do this thing, but someone wants to come in and just like drop a stupid number. It's like the people in the Hamptons whose house is worth $2 million, but every year they put it on the market for 4, hoping that some really rich person comes in and says, yeah, we want that house.
Yeah. It very easily could be some of that. It could be they want to give the illusion of a bidding process, or it could be that they want an actual bidding process. I don't think they want to do anything in secret. So they're going to, I think this is a way of announcing without announcing it. But like you said, I can't say anything definitively. First of all, I haven't been told any of that directly. So this is me trying to connect dots and it makes sense to me, but that doesn't mean that, look, there's the, used to be the Wynn, but there's a casino in Everett where it's the Encore now, and there's space in Everett across the river from Boston. Definitely not in the same footprint of where the Garden is, but not that far, not that difficult to get to, where they can eminent domain their way to some properties over there where maybe they do attach an arena, maybe they do move the team to a spot where they can own their building rather than lease the building like they do right now from the owner of the Boston Bruins. And maybe somebody with extraordinarily deep pockets comes in and says, no, I got a plan for this, and wows them. And we make a hard left turn into something that's unexpected.
Stay up to date all year on the Boston Celtics by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Celtics on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Coming up, he once hit 62 home runs in a season, but what Aaron Judge is doing this year is even more impressive. Aaron Judge eclipsed Roger Maris a few years ago when he hit 62 homers in a year. What he's doing on the diamond this year is even more impressive, as Locked On Yankees host Brian McKean and Stacey Getsoulias discuss.
Aaron Judge right now is 12 RBIs short of where Ohtani finished last year. 12. And we're in July. I mean, that he might go past Ohtani for last year by the All-Star break.
Right.
It is. I mean, it's insane the numbers that we're seeing. Just to put into perspective too, because he broke the Roger Maris 61, and I don't know if he'll do it again this year. I mean, he's on pace to, but that's a really difficult pace to keep up. He's going to have to average like 13 or 14 home runs a month for the rest of the year. That's a really hard pace to keep up. But he could do it. We've seen him do it before, so I'm not saying he can't. But Roger Maris at 141.
Wait, one second. And plus, he's already reached 62, so he doesn't have the same pressure, because he did slow down there. For when the pressure of hitting 60, 61, 62 kind of got to him a little bit. And I think now that he's experienced that, it might, you never know. You could see.
While I agree with you, I mean, just in general, though, I mean, guys have had 31 homers at this point before in their season, and they haven't reached 62 because it's a really difficult pace to keep up. You're talking about like 15 home runs a month. That's really,
I don't know. I feel like
hard.
people are going to stop pitching to him at some point too, because they're probably going to be sick of him hitting against them.
But Roger Maris in that year finished with 141 RBIs. Aaron Judge is pretty much on pace to shatter that right now. I mean, he's on pace to finish with like 170 RBIs, which is crazy. I mean, if he does, I don't think he will. He probably finishes realistically somewhere in the upper 140s. That's probably where Judge finishes, but which is still an insane year. Let's redo this stat too, because I wanted to see your reaction of this stat. This is the list of players, Stacey, that have had a 1.430 OPS over a 50-game span in any season in history, right? Bonds, Ruth, Gehrig, Williams, Judge. That's over a 50-game span. That is, I mean, those are, you're talking, I mean, maybe four of the greatest players that might be four of the greatest players to ever play the game.
Aaron Judge is exactly the kind of superstar baseball needs more of. He's enormous. He hits bombs. He seems to love playing the game in a era of three true outcomes. It is so incumbent on the league to make sure players like Judge are celebrated at the highest level. Mike Trout, when he was on pace to become one of the greatest players we've ever seen, the average sports fan had no idea what he looked like. And that was part of the thing. He was not a physically impressive superstar. And he made incredible plays in the outfield, and he hit for average and for power. But no one was ever cutting into college football games to chase history with Mike Trout. Even Shohei Ohtani, who is unbelievable and historic, it requires a decent amount of nuance and understanding of the game to understand why what he's doing is so special. Because you look at the ERA numbers, yeah, he's a good pitcher. And you look at the hitting numbers, yeah, he's a good hitter. He's doing both. But to understand why that's so cool, you need to have a lot of understanding of the history of the game. You don't need any outside understanding. You barely need to understand how baseball works. You can see big guy hit ball far. That's all you need with Aaron Judge. That's why he's special. And it is a throwback kind of star. Back to the days when, let's say, baseball was not quite on the up and up when it comes to the things that players were putting in their bodies based on what was legal at the time. But we sure loved Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa. We sure loved Barry Bonds. We sure loved Brady Anderson. And watching those guys, it's the same with Aaron Judge. This huge man swinging a tree trunk and hitting the ball an absolute mile. He is the kind of star baseball needs more of. And finally, not everyone was over the moon about Klay Thompson signing with the Dallas Mavericks. Take, for example, his father. Michael Thompson played for the Lakers from 1987 to 91 and thought it would be awesome if his son chose to join LA this offseason. When asked about Klay's decision, his dad said, I'm not feeling too much in a congratulatory mood right now. Reportedly, Klay liked the financial savings of living in Texas as opposed to California. Can't say I blame him on that one. And he loved that the Mavericks were closer to a title than the Lakers. Feels like a LeBron burn. LeBron. Maybe it wasn't intended as one, but it definitely is. If you're catching this episode after hearing your favorite Locked On show, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. Also, if you're a new subscriber to Locked On Sports Today, we're here for you with the biggest stories in sports every day. Coming up on the next Locked On Sports Today, who's the biggest winner of early NBA free agency? So at least until tomorrow, stay locked on sports today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
For more episodes of Locked On Sports Today, go to our video on demand. Click on sports at the top of your screen. There, you'll find past episodes of Locked On Sports Today, plus other Locked On shows on demand.